Let me ask you a question. When you wake up and grab that bowl of oatmeal, are you really fueling your body or are you unknowingly breaking it down? Oatmeal is often celebrated as the ideal breakfast choice. It's warm, comforting, rich in fiber, and provides a slow, steady release of energy throughout the morning. It lowers cholesterol, improves gut health, and keeps you feeling full for hours. But there's one important truth that's frequently overlooked. Oatmeal, on its own, simply doesn't deliver what your body truly needs first thing in the morning, especially if your goal is to maintain or build muscle. What happens during the night while you sleep is metabolic fasting. Your body is in a catabolic state, breaking down tissue to meet basic energy needs. When you wake up, your system is ready, even desperate, for replenishment, not just with carbohydrates, but with the amino acids that repair and rebuild tissue. Starting your day with only carbohydrates, even healthy ones like those in oatmeal, continues a pattern that's already been in motion for 7 or 8 hours. Muscle breakdown. And while oats provide complex carbs, a range of minerals, and some vitamins, they are critically low in complete protein and do not offer the essential amino acid spectrum your muscles require after that nightly fast. This means that when you eat plain oatmeal for breakfast and skip the protein, you're missing the most critical window of the day to stop catabolism and begin the repair process. Think about it. Your body doesn't know you're about to work out later, or that lunch will have protein. It works in real time using what you give it in the moment. If it doesn't get the amino acids it needs, it takes them from your own muscle tissue. It's a subtle but significant erosion. You won't feel it happening in a single day or even over a week. But over months and years, this pattern quietly robs you of strength, energy, and resilience. It's how people with decent diets and even active lifestyles end up with shrinking muscle mass as they age, wondering why their energy and recovery are getting worse. It's not that oatmeal is bad. It's what's missing that makes it incomplete. A bowl of oats without protein is like trying to build a house with bricks but no mortar. You might put up some walls, but they won't hold. You need both structure and strength, and your breakfast should reflect that. The solution is not to stop eating oatmeal, but to optimize it. Add what's missing. Turn it into something that supports your muscles instead of silently draining them. When you understand what your body is doing behind the scenes each morning, you begin to see breakfast not just as a meal, but as a critical turning point for your entire day. And that choice, repeated day after day, becomes the foundation for long-term vitality. After a full night of sleep, your body is in a fasted state. During this time, you've had no food intake for 7 to 9 hours, and your blood glucose is lower, insulin levels are down, and your body begins tapping into stored resources to maintain function. One of the key systems impacted during this time is muscle protein turnover. When there's no incoming source of amino acids, especially essential ones, the body turns to its own muscle tissue, breaking it down to free up the building blocks it needs for critical processes. This is a survival mechanism, and while it helps in the short term, when repeated every morning over time, it leads to chronic muscle degradation. Most people are unaware that the process of muscle breakdown begins not in old age, but quietly much earlier. and the morning hours play a pivotal role. Without adequate protein intake upon waking, the body extends the overnight catabolic state. This is especially dangerous in individuals who are physically active, aging, or under stress because their protein demands are higher. If breakfast doesn't provide sufficient protein, the body continues scavenging from muscle. That's why muscle loss isn't always about age or lack of exercise. It's often about nutrient timing and what's missing during the first meal of the day. A bowl of carbohydrate-rich food like oatmeal may replenish glycogen and provide energy, but it does nothing to stop this breakdown process. And that's where the problem lies. The body prioritizes essential functions: immune response, hormone production, neurotransmitter synthesis, and all of these require amino acids. If you're not providing those through your diet, especially in the morning, when the need is high, the body finds another source: your own muscle tissue. The amino acids released from this muscle breakdown are then repurposed to keep your body running. But day by day, this takes a toll over time. This ongoing depletion contributes to a measurable loss of lean muscle mass, known as sarcopenia, when it becomes clinically significant. What makes it particularly dangerous is that it's invisible in the early stages. You may feel a little more tired, notice slower recovery from workouts, or observe subtle declines in strength. But most people don't make the connection to their breakfast. The truth is, skipping protein in the morning is like skipping a dose of medicine your body desperately needs. It may not hurt today, but over months and years, it adds up in a very real, measurable way. Muscle is one of the most metabolically active tissues in the body. It's not just for movement. It's a reservoir for amino acids, a regulator of metabolism, and a protective system against disease. Preserving it means starting your day with the nutrients required to do so. Skipping morning protein is not just a nutritional gap, it's a long-term risk. And the cost is paid not immediately, but with every ounce of strength lost over time. Adding protein to your oatmeal may seem like a small change, but it has a profound physiological impact. The body is most receptive to rebuilding and recovery first thing in the morning. After a prolonged fast during sleep, the muscles are primed to receive nutrients. When protein is included in that first meal, especially with a source rich in essential amino acids, it initiates the process of muscle protein synthesis. That means the body begins repairing, maintaining, and building muscle rather than continuing to break it down. This is a crucial distinction because the longer the body goes without adequate protein, the more likely it is to continue pulling amino acids from existing muscle tissue. That's not just inefficient. It's degenerative. Oatmeal, while rich in complex carbohydrates and beneficial for sustained energy, is extremely low in complete protein. It provides some amino acids, but not in the amounts or proportions the body needs to truly shift into an anabolic or muscle-building state. By adding a scoop of quality protein, whether it's whey, plant-based, or collagen, you transform the metabolic outcome of that meal. It's not just about numbers or macros. It's about signaling. Protein in the morning signals to the body that there is no need to continue catabolism. It shifts the body from a breakdown state into a rebuilding one. This is not about extremes or complicated routines. It's about a simple, consistent adjustment. 1 scoop of protein powder stirred into your oats, a handful of nuts or seeds, or a few spoonfuls of Greek yogurt on top. That's all it takes. These additions not only provide complete protein, but they also offer other synergistic nutrients like healthy fats, fiber, calcium, and magnesium. These compounds work together to support insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation, and promote a feeling of fullness that lasts for hours. But perhaps most importantly, they provide the substrate your muscles need to stay intact and function at their best. Over time, this practice of optimizing your oatmeal becomes a preventative strategy. It prevents muscle wasting, supports metabolic health, and maintains the body's structural integrity. And the beauty of it is its sustainability. You don't need to overhaul your entire diet. You don't need to eliminate or restrict. You simply need to build on what you're already doing with intention and understanding. The body doesn't respond to gimmicks, it responds to consistency. And this is a change that can be repeated every single day. When we understand that breakfast is not just about calories, but about biochemical signals, it changes how we approach our morning routine. Every time you choose to add protein to your oats, you're doing more than feeding your hunger. You're feeding your resilience. You're choosing to build rather than lose. You're giving your body what it needs to maintain strength, mobility, and vitality, not just for the day ahead, but for years to come. That's the power of one simple addition. The body is in a delicate balance between building and breaking down tissue at all times. This constant turnover is especially important when it comes to muscle. Muscle isn't just important for movement. It's a critical part of your metabolism, immune response, and overall health. The process of muscle protein synthesis, which is how the body repairs and builds muscle tissue, is triggered not only by resistance training or physical activity, but also by the presence of adequate amino acids, particularly the essential ones that must come from food. And the window of opportunity to stimulate this process is most effective after a fast like the one that occurs overnight. When you wake up, your body is essentially in a catabolic state. It's been hours since your last meal, and blood amino acid levels have dropped. If no protein is consumed at breakfast, the body lacks the necessary building blocks to initiate muscle repair. This is where timing becomes so crucial. Providing high-quality protein first thing in the morning immediately delivers amino acids into the bloodstream. This acts as a signal to the body that resources are available, flipping the switch from muscle breakdown to muscle repair and maintenance. The stimulus from protein is even more effective when it's spread out over the day in balanced doses, starting with breakfast. People who skip protein in the morning and load it all in at dinner miss the opportunity to stimulate muscle protein synthesis multiple times throughout the day. That missed opportunity can add up. Even if you're exercising without adequate protein, especially in the morning, the benefits are diminished. The post-fasted state creates a moment where the body is incredibly sensitive to nutrients, especially leucine, rich proteins like whey, which are known to trigger the muscle building process efficiently. Oats alone, while beneficial in many ways, do not contain enough leucine or total protein to activate muscle protein synthesis. Adding a complete protein source to your oats bridges that gap. Suddenly, Your breakfast isn't just a source of energy. It becomes a tool for repair and restoration. This shift from simply feeding to actually rebuilding has long-term benefits that go far beyond muscle size. It contributes to better balance, improved endurance, injury prevention, and even cognitive function, as muscle tissue influences glucose metabolism and systemic inflammation. It's also important to understand that muscle is lost much more easily than it is built. Once lost, it takes weeks or months to regain, if it can be regained at all. But preserving it is much simpler, and it starts with something as basic as the first thing you eat in the morning. When you add protein to that first meal, you're not just making a better breakfast. You're giving your body the exact message it needs. We're not breaking down today. We're building. That message, repeated daily, is one of the strongest health strategies available. Muscle is far more than just a means of movement or physical strength. It is a living, dynamic tissue that plays a central role in nearly every system of the body. It regulates blood sugar by acting as a reservoir for glucose, helps buffer inflammation, supports immune response, and contributes directly to hormonal balance. It's also one of the strongest predictors of longevity and resilience, particularly as we age. Maintaining healthy muscle mass is not simply about looking fit or being able to lift weights. It's about sustaining function, independence, and protection from disease. The truth is, the loss of muscle mass is one of the most recognized drivers of poor health outcomes, especially in adults over 30, where the gradual decline begins to quietly set in. As people age, there is a natural shift toward sarcopenia, the age-related loss of skeletal muscle. But this process is not inevitable, nor is it purely a function of age. It is significantly influenced by diet and lifestyle. Most notably, it's influenced by whether or not the body receives the amino acids it needs to preserve lean mass. Without enough high-quality protein, especially in the morning, when the body is most sensitive to nutrient signaling, muscle begins to slowly waste away. And this loss isn't obvious at first. It might show up as slower recovery, lower energy, reduced endurance, or even a few extra pounds of fat that creep in as metabolism begins to decline. Over time, it translates into weaker bones, compromised immunity, increased blood sugar, and greater vulnerability to falls and injuries. Muscle supports stability, posture, and joint health, but it also interacts directly with metabolic health. In fact, skeletal muscle is the largest site of glucose disposal in the body. When muscles are maintained and active, they help regulate insulin sensitivity and prevent metabolic disorders. But when muscle is lost, the body becomes more prone to insulin resistance, chronic fatigue, and inflammatory diseases. What this means is that muscle is not optional for health. It is foundational. The protective role of muscle extends even further when we look at hospitalization outcomes. People with more muscle mass are more likely to survive surgery, recover from illness, and respond better to treatments, including chemotherapy. In many critical care settings, lean body mass is a better predictor of survival than body weight or even age. That's how powerful this tissue is, not just for everyday life, but for life's most serious challenges. That's why breakfast matters. That's why adding protein to a meal like oatmeal matters, because it's not just about satisfying hunger. It's about signaling your body that you value the systems that keep you upright, resilient, and capable. Each morning you consume enough protein to preserve and repair muscle. You're investing in every layer of your health: metabolic, hormonal, structural, and immune. The decision to nourish muscle is the decision to strengthen your foundation for a longer, more capable, and healthier life. Each morning, whether consciously or not, you make a choice that echoes far beyond the few minutes it takes to eat breakfast. That first meal isn't just about satisfying hunger. It's a message to your body, a biochemical instruction set that tells your systems how to operate for the hours and days to come. When you start your day with an incomplete breakfast, one that lacks essential nutrients like high-quality protein, you set yourself up for a cascade of subtle but significant consequences. These consequences are rarely immediate. You won't feel weaker tomorrow. You won't lose muscle overnight. But over time, those small nutritional gaps compound. And when compounded daily, they become measurable loss of strength, of energy, of function. There's something incredibly powerful about the way small habits shape our biology. The food you eat in the morning has a disproportionate impact on metabolic signaling because the body has been in a fasted state for hours. Insulin sensitivity is highest, muscle is primed to absorb amino acids, and your system is prepared to shift out of catabolism and into repair mode. If you give it the right tools. A breakfast rich in carbohydrates but poor in protein keeps you in a metabolic holding pattern. Energy goes up temporarily, but muscle preservation does not occur. And so the decline continues slowly, imperceptibly. By contrast, adding something as simple as a scoop of protein to your oatmeal or topping it with a protein-rich food like yogurt, eggs, or seeds turns that meal into a catalyst for muscle protein synthesis. It tells your body, here's what you need to rebuild. Here's what you need to preserve what matters. That daily choice made consistently begins to change your health trajectory. It's not about perfection or rigid routines. It's about consistency in the small things that move the needle the most. This is where health is truly shaped, not in emergencies, not in hospitals, not in moments of crisis, but in the repeated, quiet decisions you make every day. Breakfast is a unique opportunity because it's predictable. It happens at the same time, under similar conditions, and with a limited range of options. That makes it the perfect target for a long-term strategy that supports strength, metabolism, and resilience. You don't need a radical diet change. You don't need supplements with complicated names. You need to look at what you're already doing and make it just a little bit better. When you add protein to your morning oats, you're not just eating smarter. You're investing in your future capacity to move, to heal, to resist disease, to age gracefully. You're sending the message that your muscle tissue, your energy, and your functionality matter. It's a message that the body receives clearly and responds to powerfully. One small change, one consistent habit. That's how decline is stopped, and how strength, health, and longevity are built day by day.